Welcome back for another video, friends. My name is Adeola here at A Garden and a Bible Farm. So today we are going to be talking about this. Yes, all of this in all its glory. So these are sweet potatoes which have formed what we call sweet potato slips. Admittedly, I should have already done this process long already, but I decided to wait so that I can film it for you guys so that I can share this with you. A lot of people think that when you plant sweet potatoes, you do it exactly the same way that you would do a regular potato. Now, sweet potatoes and potatoes, regular potatoes, are not a part of the same growing family. Sweet potatoes belong to a group or a family of vegetables which we call the morning glories, whereas regular potatoes belong to the nightshade groups. Now, this video is not about the nightshades, and things that are included in the nightshade include things like eggplant and tomatoes and potatoes, okay? And so those are not what we're looking at here today. What we're looking at are these morning glory types of potatoes, which we call sweet potatoes, or in some places or some people just call them yams. Whichever one you call them, it's the same concept. Now, when we plant a sweet potato, or the way you're going to plant a sweet potato is not the way you will plant a regular potato. The way you will plant a regular potato is that you can actually take the whole potato and allow it to chit. We call it chitting or sprouting, and you will place that whole potato, or even just the part that has sprouted of that potato, and you've allowed it to cure, which is to scab over so that it doesn't rot underground. You plant that whole thing into the ground or into your container where you will be growing the potatoes. You do not grow sweet potatoes like that. Sweet potatoes are grown by making what we call slips, which you see here, which are these green leaves that have grown out of the sweet potato. It's a very extremely easy process. However, it can be slow. There are two methods that actually can be used in order to make sweet potato slips. I've used one method, and the second method, which a lot of people use, but I personally do not like that method, is to take the whole sweet potato and place it into a jar of water and allow for it to root out that way, where the potato's bottom is actually touching the water, able to suck up the water, and eventually roots will grow out of the bottom, and then at the top or from the sides of it, you will get these sweet potato slips. The second method, which I think is the easiest method, and this is the one that has been working for me for the past growing seasons that I've been growing sweet potatoes, is to take a tray or a foil pan. You can do this as cheaply as possible. It doesn't have to be expensive. So you can see here that I've used an aluminum foil, and inside of it I have placed some soil. Okay, and when I place that soil, I put the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, into the soil. Now, these potatoes that you see here, these sweet potatoes are sweet potatoes from last year that I personally grew. So I let them sit on my counter and I allow them to form little sprouts. The sprouts were not that ginormous, they weren't that big, but they did have some sprouts coming out of it. And then I now placed that potato into this aluminum foil. Once I placed it into the aluminum foil, I just water it, put it under some lights, and allow it to do its thing. And within about 2 weeks, actually, I began to see some sprouts coming out of my potatoes, and then eventually it has grown to this. So I have two trays where I'm just going to show you exactly what we do. You're just going to snip them at their roots. Okay, you're going to snip them here and place them in some water. If there are some lower leaves at the bottom of the stem, you're going to remove that so that the stem has the ability to pick up the water and then eventually grow some roots. Now, when the sweet potato slips have grown roots, then later on in another video, I will show you exactly how we plant them into the garden. This is how you grow sweet potatoes. You need the slip that has roots. You can either make it yourself or you can actually go to the store, the nursery, and purchase it. But I strongly suggest that if you want to, you can do this process by yourself and then root it out in some water and then plant it into your garden. The major difference between potatoes and sweet potatoes is that sweet potatoes need to grow in the extreme heat. They love heat. They are not going to grow. Like right now, it's still a little breezy. It's still a bit cold. Our nighttime temperatures do drop and it's not going to grow. So there's no way that I'm going to place these slips into the garden right now. However, potatoes, you can actually plant them into a bag or into a container or into the ground right now, and they will eventually begin to grow and sprout and do their thing underground. The major difference here is that sweet potatoes like heat, potatoes not necessarily. So you can actually grow potatoes where I am in two different segments of the year. You can grow it right now in the springtime before the heat of the summer comes, because once the heat of the summer comes, you will begin to see that the potato leaves will fall off and they will die off and they will start to look like not the way that you want them to look. So you have to eventually pull your potatoes out of the ground. Then you can grow them towards the autumn season. I'm going to do both. The more the merrier. But sweet potatoes want to be in heat. They love the heat. One of the features that I really enjoy in my sweet potatoes is the fact that their leaves are actually hearts. You can see it. Look, their leaves are actually hearts. And so I want to believe that that's where they got their name. If you look at these here, you can see that these are hearts. They're so beautiful. And sweet potatoes, unbeknownst to a lot of people, is that their stems can be eaten raw, as well as you can also eat the leaves. So you can actually consume the whole plant if you choose to. If you do so, please do your research. Please make sure that it's okay for you and that it's something that you and your family will want to engage in. However, let's get into cutting these sweet potato slips off and then putting them into some water. Another thing quickly before I let you go is that when I first did this, what I did was I allowed the sweet potato slips to look like this, and then I took the sweet potato out of the soil and I shook off the soil, and then you will see underneath this potato are roots. That's the reason why it's like so stuck to this, because there are roots there. So I shook it off and then I used those slips. But if you want to continuously grow more slips, the best thing for you to do is to snip it off here, somewhere like here, and then take off these lower stems, put them into some water, and then you will see that you will have some roots growing out, hopefully within the next 2-3 weeks. And then by the time you're ready to put them in the garden, they will be prepared for you. I'm going to put my sweet potatoes in the garden, hopefully maybe the first or second week of June. I think by then our temperature will be really warm and my sweet potatoes will thrive. Sweet potatoes also have another beautiful process that they go through, that whenever their stems, their vining stems touch soil, wherever it touches soil, that place will actually root out, begin to form roots, and then eventually form the sweet potato under the soil for you. And the way you will know that your sweet potatoes are done is because they will probably be poking out of the soil, and then you as you grow them, you will pay attention and you will see them. The more you see them poking out of the soil, that means that they're really, really large, and then you can harvest them one at a time or all of them at a time. But we will have another video for that. I will share more tips on that. Let's get to cutting off these sweet potato slips and showing you exactly how to put them into water. All right, you guys, so this process is really simple. So here's my jar of water that I'm going to place my sweet potato slips in once I've cut them. And I'm going to cut all of this. You can see I have 2 trays, and I'm just going to cut them and place them into the water. It's a very simple process. So there you have it. That is exactly how you will root out your sweet potato slips so that you can eventually plant them in your garden. Here are the sweet potatoes that I've harvested, the slips rather, that I've harvested. You can see them. They look like a nice bouquet of flowers of sweet potato slips. I have these, and then I also have these that I'm going to put into some water when I get back in the house. Now, the way you're going to make sure you take care of this is to still put them in a place where they will be receiving light. Make sure that you pay attention to the water. If the water starts to look cloudy or foggy, or it's starting to develop some type of film in the water glass, make sure that you change the water. Just continue to make sure that you're treating these slips as if they are still growing, because they are still growing, because what you're trying to do is for them to form roots. And eventually what you will see is that you will see some small white little hairs coming out that look like roots, and then they will get longer. They may start becoming tangled together. You may have to separate them if this is becoming too tangled for them. So just pay attention to them. The more you do it, the more you learn, the more you have gain your own personal experience. I cannot wait to show you how we will take these slips and plant them into the garden. This year I have so many ideas. I want to plant them in the containers that I was planting them in the past, but I also want to plant them in ground, just like I did my potatoes as well as my peppers last year, because those gave me an abundance. So I want to make sure that I try that method as well and see how well it's going to do. The only fear that I have with sweet potatoes is that it vines, and wherever it hits the soil, it's going to root out and form potatoes there. That can't be much of a problem, but in terms of walking in the garden, it can actually pose a problem. Anyhow, friends, I hope that you've learned something today. I hope that you've learned how to create your own potato slips, sweet potato slips, and I hope that you will try this method out. This year is the year to get into gardening. If you decided at some point in your life that you wanted to have your own garden, this is the time to start. It's very simple. I cannot encourage you more than enough. I want you guys to begin to make your own food, grow your own food, so that you can go grocery shopping in your backyard. It is the best feeling. And then also when you put it on a plate for you and your family to enjoy that meal, you have nothing but pride and joy for the fact that you grew the food that you are actually consuming and that it's nourishing your bodies. It's very simple. If you are here to learn, if you're ready to learn, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Please share us on your socials, share us with your family and your friends so that they all can be a part of this growing community. I am so grateful and thankful for you being here. And as always, may the earth yield its increase in your life and in your garden. Thank you so much, friend. God bless you. Bye.